Welcome to another video from Dr. Lock. Okay, so this is the ILO that we replaced the motor on. Since then I've done a lot of other work. Now, one of the comments that one of the viewers said to me, and it made a lot of sense, but it was too late to go back. I was like at V1, you know, gone too far. I was kind of committed at that stage. So what he said was that with some of these newer cars like LDV and things like that, use it for 5 and then get rid of it after the warranty goes. And in a professional situation, look, that makes a lot of sense. I've had the time to sort of get this reconditioned motor in and also fix all the problems. He used a term called firefighting. So even though you do the motor, you're kind of firefighting, you know, putting out fires as they pop up. And I have to say, he was 100% right, 100% right. And so of course I had to kind of do it the hard way. When the motor went on this, I should have cleaned it up, sold the van on and just got another van and moved on. This reconditioned motor thing and all the rest is not really for the faint-hearted. I've dealt with bad mechanics, expensive mechanics, doing rough jobs when they're putting the motor back together. I mean, the amount of things that I found kind of not right when this motor was put back together, from, you know, removing the original, putting in the recondition, things like that, things were just not right. So I found a lot of leaks, I found a lot of issues. Some of the issues that I found, well, to start off with, let's go over what was replaced. I get the car back, it has an engine light after the motor's been installed. I find out that it's the EGR. EGR is engine gas recirculation, so it comes from the muffler, feeds it in back through the air intake. Kind of like eating your own shit, basically. Clogs up your motor and all that sort of stuff. So to get the engine light off, I had to buy a, I think, $1,200 EGR control unit, which sits in down below underneath here. So I got that fitted. There's a couple of grand there in parts and getting that done. The engine light went off, great. Then we had a few other issues with running. In the end, I ended up getting all these injectors tested. We've removed them, new seats on them all, and all that sort of stuff, because the injectors I had, they were the right ones, but they had like the badging kind of scrubbed off. So I ended up taking them down to a place that does injector testing, and they tested all, make sure they're all good. So we ruled out injectors because it was running a bit rough. Also, I did the video on the timing chain because as I got the car back, it had a massive rattle coming from the front. It ended up being the timing chain guides and things like that. They were so brittle, you just snapped them. And for a reconditioned motor, not to do a $200 $150 timing chain when they're rebuilding the motor was just devastating. So it left me thinking that whoever built my motor was an absolute monkey, and they were just basically pulling out the broken parts, putting new parts in, and call it a reco, which is not what it is. It's a repaired motor. So I paid $6,500 for a reco motor and got a repaired motor. So I would have been better off just repairing the motor that I had to start with, because I wasn't, you know, so I pretty much got ripped off there as well. Paid a couple of grand to get the motor out, get the motor in, and when I got it back, the sump plug finger tight. So if that had dropped off, it would have been a devastating event. On saying that too, with all the rattles and the engine light going on and a bad sloppy timing chain, I guess the mechanic knew, hey look, if we leave it like this, it falls out, not our fault, now our problem, warranty void. So, you know, if it wasn't for me checking the oil and finding out the sump plug was loose, it would have been catastrophic. Right, since then, I think we've done a radiator. We've most likely done an air conditioning pump as well. Oh no, that was the other one. Air conditioning's okay, but yeah, we did do an alternator. You can see the red writing on it. Done shocks on it, lower control arms left and right, brake pads, brake discs. Then we started having other problems like intermittent problems. So one of them was a starting issue. Some of the ILOads did have an in-tank fuel filter, so also the car sometimes get run down on the juice. So my thought was, for $150, replace the fuel pump, sender unit, which is located inside the fuel tank, and that was fairly cheap and fairly easy to do. So I replaced that. Then we replaced a fuel filter, and that was done. We still had an issue when the engine was warm, not being able to restart for about a minute or two. So that was the one that's caused me the most grief. Oh, not to mention we blew a radiator. That was a couple of months back. We blew a radiator, and at which stage I had to pull the front off. So I went over the whole cooling system. There's a pipe that goes back and around. I found it leaking there, so I had to get that fixed. The thermostat lives down here in this lower pipe that goes into the block. So I checked that. Thermostat was new, which is good. So I replaced that, new gaskets. I replaced the water pump, which sits down there, because I had the whole front off. Basically just replacing it on my terms rather than it failed on me later on, because I have no confidence in the people who have worked on this motor or rebuilt this motor. Even though I paid them $6.5 for a rebuild, I have no confidence. So, you know, I can't do much about it except for move on. So that's why I replaced that as well. At which stage I checked the intercooler, and then put the new radiator in, and now we're holding pressure, and the cooling system's good. So the next thing after that was, there is a sensor in the intercooler, that aluminium bit that runs down the bottom there. There's a sensor in there. I replaced that. That gauges the temperature of the air coming in from the air intake coming in from the air filter going into the air intake. So that gauges that. So I replaced that as well, because we were still running quite rich, and you can see that from the video of when you accelerate hard after I did the catalytic converter. Oh, that's right, I replaced the catalytic converter too, and there's two catalytic converters, one here, one there, so I replaced them, and then we saw if it was still running rich, and it was still running rich. It went a little bit better, but still running rich. The next thing is too, the person who drives this was complaining about diesel smells and exhaust smells. So okay, so I'll just do a couple of quick things underneath before the camera dies. The hoist, absolutely. You know, if I didn't have this, I couldn't have done half of this. All right, so let's get to the muffler now. Now, the muffler had a bigger cat here, didn't have a sensor, so we put in like a sports cat. Here, the flexible muffler was leaking. That was part of our exhaust smells that we could smell, so I recently had that replaced as well. That's the catalytic converter there. Quite hard to replace. A lot of people just lobotomize it, drop this pipe and lobotomize it. Drop those two screws, and there's another two that go here, and then you can just remove it and lobotomize it if you want, because they're bloody expensive. On this muffler here, he didn't put the flange back, the first muffler guy. I did a video on that. Anyway, we did that because it was blowing some black smoke, running really rich. Blocked muffler can cause that, lack of performance. So that's why we did the muffler. Having a block muffler at about 200,000 is quite common. We're also trying to fault find the exhaust smell that you could smell inside the cabin. So we did that. This part of the muffler was fine, so there was no troubles there. The sender unit inside the tank, I replaced that as well, because sometimes it has a fuel pump in it, and I replaced that because we were still having those issues of non-start, and because the tank got run down quite a few times to where it's out of petrol on the reds. Sometimes they can overheat and become problematic, so that was replaced as well. Down the back here, I put in these bump stops from Airbag Man. They're pretty cool. They just bolted on, just straight up, boom, boom, and they do give a little bit of lift in the back because, of course, the car is overweighted. Now, there is one more sensor here I have not replaced. I haven't researched that one, but I don't think it needs to be done. And there's one more that lives just up on top here where my hand is. I think that's the crank sensor. That one I haven't replaced. But every other sensor in here I have replaced. Looking at it from this position here, you probably can't see, but anyway, I have rerouted the heater exhaust from the EGR because it doesn't really need to be there. That's a different story. As for everything else, oh yeah, this is the oil pump, and it's all connected as a one piece. It looks a bit dirty at the moment, and I had to replace that because we weren't getting sufficient oil pressure after the rebuild. And that was when I did that in my other video. I got a little bit of coolant drips there just because of when I refilled it, it leaked. All right, and the reason I refilled it is because I replaced the temperature coolant sensor, and we'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, did the lower control arms, did the brakes, did the shocks, did all that. The sway bar looks still pretty good, so pretty much just fault finding. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, that's a effing sponge. So when they leak, that's a sponge. Okay, we also put in a catch can, and here's my little tap. See? Here's my little tap, so just come under here. Not that it's going to really catch much, but anyway, that's underneath. Okay, so I've just dropped it down. I'm keeping the wheels off the ground. The reason being is because polyurethane coated concrete doesn't like tires. It marks. All right, so we still had the problem of the car not starting after it was turned off when it was hot. I diagnosed it down to being this relay here, which is this one here with the engine and the manual book on it. So this relay here, that's a 5-pin relay, and of course the testers I buy from AliExpress test 5-pin relays, but they don't actually test them. So test all the other relays, they all work fine, but it was this one here. So when I turned the key off, I was getting it to what they call run on, and it'd take about a minute or two for this to turn off. So we have no fault codes, everything else is in order. Oh yeah, I also removed the inlet manifold here, this whole inlet manifold, and gave it a manual clean. The reason I did that was because it had, one, it was all chocked up. Two, the driver was complaining about smelling diesel fumes. So part of the muffler, tracing it, we did that. We took it to a muffler shop, he just bent the pipe at the back, took it to another muffler shop, said, oh, we can't smell it. Anyway, I wrapped a bit of aluminium around with a couple of O-clamps around the flexible shaft. Sure enough, that's where the problem was. So that was just recently replaced. But of course, these common problem things that the professional should know, they generally, I'm not getting those answers from them first time around. So I actually had to do that to find out, yes, it was that, yes, it is leaking, and let's replace it. The other problem was the smell of diesel, and you could smell it. It was quite constant here. So I took this inlet manifold off and found out it was actually leaking from the gasket between the plastic inlet manifold and the block, and you could see like a bit of a stain. So I replaced the gasket, re-screwed it all back in, and rebled the injectors and all that sort of stuff, and we're good to go there. Some of the sensors I just replaced because I'm still tracing black smoke. When you accelerate, you're getting a lot more black smoke than you need. So I changed the camshaft positioning sensor, which lives right here. That was quite an easy one. I got quoted $400 for that, but of course I just got a Kia one which is identical, and that works exactly well and cost me about 30 bucks. So I won't be buying from Hyundai in Silverwater or Homebush. It was one of those parts. It wasn't Hyundai, it was another one there. They wanted 400 bucks for that sensor. Then I replaced the water temperature sensor because that also can cause irregular readings through the ECU. So it needs to know its temperature so that it's, you know, putting as the right air to fuel ratio. So I replaced that. That lives underneath this pipe here, and that's a nightmare to get to. It's right under there, and I'll show you the old one. I also replaced the diesel temperature sensor. I found the original one to be in there just a little bit better than finger tight, so I wasn't happy about that. So that is yet another sign of when it was swapping the motors over, they didn't put the sensor into the correct torque, which can cause air bubbles going into the line, and it also can, you know, not give you a great reading. So that lives, very hard to see, but it lives just down there on the back of the diesel fuel pump. On the back of the diesel fuel pump, you also have the fuel pressure regulator. That one was reasonably easy to change. I changed that one too. There's one more sensor down the back here, which is the fuel rail pressure sensor here. I replaced that and got more error codes than I started with, and I also put the diagnostics tool on it and found I was getting I don't know, 1800 psi, so that was actually working. So I just left the original one in and returned the faulty brand new one that I purchased and spent an hour getting in and out. The fuel filter as well we replaced, because if you've got a blockage in the fuel filter, that can cause you all sorts of problems, so I replaced the fuel filter as well. I replaced the relay, which I thought was the issue, and found out it wasn't the relay. It's still got the same run-on issue with the relay, where, so when this relay, when you start the car, it warms up, everything's fine. When you turn the car off, you can't turn it back on until this relay clicks. Now a lot of cars have ECUs, and there was a interesting sort of, you know, problem. So was it the, you know, is it the ECU not getting the data or reconfiguring itself, why it's staying active? I don't know. Couldn't find much data on it. I took this whole relay board out, checked it for bad earthing and broken wires, things like that. Found nothing. So I put it all back. There was a good couple of hours. And then I put in a new relay for the hell of it, and I still have the run-on issue on that, but I think I might have found it, and that will be getting to the in the next, you know, in the next few minutes. So I also checked the earthing on the car. We've got one there, and we've got one underneath the bumper bar down there. When I had this whole front end off doing the radiator, when I put it back, I noticed that my indicators were playing up. I took the plastic back off the bumper bar, and then I found it was just the earth. Although I attached it the same way it was meant to be, like that, onto the body, bolted on, it just wasn't good. So I actually had to take it off, sand the surface, metal to metal, put it back on, make sure it's shit tight, and the earth came good, and we didn't have a problem with the indicators or gauges. So if you do have that problem with indicator or gauges, it'll be your earth that lives down here. This one I haven't had to remove. So we still end up having our run-on issue. We've solved the black smoke issue, which is a fuel-air ratio issue, and it runs okay. It runs okay. It's fine. But if you stall it, you've got to wait a minute or two for it to be able to start again. It cranks, but won't actually kick over. And it's only when this relay goes tink that'll actually allow it to start. So that's what I'm chasing today, and I think I found it. I also introduced a catch can over here. It's not actually a breather, so don't leave comments. It's like a little tiny hole for a breather, just to get rid of a little bit of back pressure. It's actually feeding back in just the same as all of the others. So it's just if there's a large amount of pressure, will you get anything through there. That also has a little pipe on the side, so you can tell on how full it is. We went over the mass flow air sensor. That's another cause of running rich as well. Went over that. That works. Tested it. Air filter's good, so there's no problems there. So everything I could do as far as mechanically, as far as the air to fuel ratio, I kind of have done. And it finally started to run efficiently after I replaced the last lot of sensors. So those sensors, once again, camshaft positioning sensor, which also could have been the cause of the not starting straight away. And then the water temperature, fuel temperature. So those did definitely make a difference. And I just want to show you the sensors here. So this is the fuel pressure sensor that I got out, which actually wasn't in there too tight. Doesn't look too bad. Then we had the water temperature sensor. Now, when I removed it, it actually got tighter when I was right near the end, which was very weird. But you can see there that like all this stuff here. So yeah, that's cool. Camshaft positioning sensor. This one doesn't look too bad, but you just don't know, so I just replaced it. There's our 5-pin relay. It does work, but it's marked X because I removed it. And then we have our clutch positioning our clutch switch, which I've replaced twice now, and we still get the error code of P0830. Now, that brings me to the next point of all the things I've chased. Oh, by the way, I replaced the engine ECU, reprogrammed the keys in to see if that solved any of the problems. It didn't. Cost me $500 for the unit, plus transponders, plus reinitializing it, all the rest. So real headache there. Also the boost sensor, or boost pressure control valve, which lives here, which is a vacuum activated little device, which tells your turbo on how much to sort of spool up and not. That was replaced. I just got a second hand one and replaced it. I'd done that before, but that wasn't the issue. So the only sensors I haven't done is outlet of the exhaust manifold temperature. I haven't done that one yet, but I think we don't need to. I've replaced every other one. And then what else have we done? So that's kind of where we're up to under the bonnet. Look, it runs good. What I'm noticing as well is that when you start it up, it seems a little bit low on oil, and you get a little bit of noise coming from the timing change, which means possibly one of the pools inside the block or something isn't retaining enough oil. Then again, some cars do it on first startup, but you know, it's most likely just somebody's, the tolerances are not tight. It's not holding oil where it should, or the oil engine oil is too thin. I did an oil flush on it. That reminds me, I dropped the oil pan on this. I checked the pickup because I ran some engine flush through it, and I'm going to be replacing the oil for the second time shortly. So basically you put the crap in, or cleaner in the motor, through the oil, run it, drop your oil after it says to, and then I do another oil change like 500k later after that to make sure you get all of it out. I also clean the pickup, and the pickup is where the bottom of this motor, in the sump, there's a pickup which actually sucks the oil through, and that gets blocked from all the carbon. A lot of the time the motor gets destroyed when the injectors aren't seated properly. The little copper bush down the bottom, it sucks in carbon and crap, and then that gets in your oil. Then that works as sandpaper. Then it blocks the oil pickup, which is in the sump, and then it doesn't distribute oil accordingly. So yeah, I checked that, and it was actually clean. So I spent a day pulling that off to check that, and it was crystal clean. I did that on my other iLoad and didn't had the same thing. It was clean, but it's worth checking because you don't want to be driving a grenade. So that's kind of where we are. And when I did this water pressure sensor, I dropped as much coolant as I could out of the radiator, but I still ended up spilling some. That's why there's green around. But as far as that, I've also pressure tested it, and it pressure tests and holds, and I've got no leaks. So I know I'm actually good on that side of things. So yeah, pulled the relay board out, couldn't find an issue. I'm not going to start butcherizing it and running new earths and stuff like that to try and solve this problem, because that's just butcher. So I'm still tracking it down. So I took it for a run yesterday, and I still have that same issue of basically once it's warm, it's hard to start. You got to wait for this relay to click off. I checked all my earths around here. I still can't find it. And then I think I'm going to have a hard day today, because what I'm doing to this car next is going to absolutely wreck my day. But let's go over it. All right, let's go in. Okay, so clutch pedal switch. Let's show you where that lives. Okay, that's your brake. That's your clutch pedal switch right there. If you can see me pointing to it, that one there, okay? But I've replaced that thing twice. Let me just see if I can show it to you. There. I replaced that thing twice. And I'm still getting the same error. And it could be that when the clutch is not pushed in, it's not meant to crank. But the funny thing about it is that this car cranks. And so I'm thinking that it actually does work. But when I use the top-down scan tool, what I'm finding out is that the clutch is still registering as off. So that tells me something. And it's only when the scan tool tells me it drops into NA, non-applicable, after about 30 seconds and all that, that's timed with that relay. So that relay is doing that at the same time. So my logic is that this clutch switch problem could be relating to when that relay is actually turning off. So perhaps it's not getting the data and dropping into a default state in a minute or two after turning off. That's my guess. So I looked at some diagrams online and everybody's saying that there's a switch located here, but I'm looking at my one and the switch is actually located on the side of the pedal. So I'm thinking, oh, the gods at Hyundai are in my favor. You know, they've redesigned a product that's actually more serviceable and easier, considering that it's such a high use part. So I'm thinking, great. So I replaced it. Still get the problem. I replaced it again. And then I thought to myself, hang on a second. Let's check that position that this is located in to see what's there. Because when I see this pedal online or anywhere else that I research, it's always mounted internally. And our one's mounted externally. So I'm thinking, okay, they've redesigned it. But then I get my boroscope. The boroscope that I bought from Audi that I use to look at stuff and crack on safes and stuff like that. Alright, so this is what I'm kind of looking at. And we can't really make sense, but that looks like a bump stop to me. And if you lift it, have a look at that. That round thing there is a bump stop. And that piece of shit fucking switch is located behind the fucking pedal. So I have two. The gods at Hyundai can go fuck themselves, because not only did they put one on the outside to confuse me, which I don't know why I've got two, but they've put one on the inside. I need to remove this whole clutch. This clutch, see that? How the fuck is that going to come out? Well, there's 3 bolts and a roll pin on the side and we should be good, but of course I can't even show you where the top bolt is because it's so far up its ass. And then I've got to replace it with the switch. So I was there thinking it's that one, but it could be that one. But I have to do this because this could be the reason why the ECU is keeping that relay alive to run on. And if it is, then I fixed it. If it isn't, then I'll just keep replacing everything until I've rebuilt this car from the inside out. I don't care. I just have to keep continuing until I win. That's one of the things with locksmiths. We're a bit patient and persistent. And, you know, that's the same with all the safe cracking and all that sort of stuff and lock picking. Sometimes you just got to keep at it until you actually win. But whoever put that fucking switch in there, you're a fuckhead. An absolute fuckhead. It's in the most unserviceable position. And the mount on the side of it, you could have put a switch with a double contact, right? See this one here? You could have just put a switch with 2 plugs, 1 switch, and done the exact same thing. Why would you go ahead and put a switch all the way up there when this one does the same thing? And why would you have 2 on 1 car? Why? It doesn't make sense. But my thought is it allows it to crank. It wouldn't allow it to crank if the pedal wasn't pushed down, so one circuit. The other one must be the other circuit. So, that's not to mention having to swap out the ECU, which lives in there, fault find all of these wires, make sure my earth's good, make sure everything's good, and now my day is getting that clutch pedal out. I'm going to put my camera on charge because I've waffled enough. But yeah, Hyundai manufacturers, fuck you. Why you do this to me? Fuck you. Anyway, everything else has been okay on the car. I've been able to service and do most of the other things. I like it when everything's serviceable and they do it in such a way that it can be removed, such as if I need to remove that, I could. You know, but when you do things like this, I'm literally, you know, it'd be easier, you know, sometimes just to take the whole fucking dash out to attack this than to what I'm going to have to do now. I want to show you one more thing that really helped me out, and that is this thing. Never used one, saw it on Facebook or somewhere, and this was really good for the EGR return pipe which goes behind the motor. It's chain driven, I think. and you can actually get right up onto it. So if you're replacing that pipe that goes from the back of the motor from the exhaust to the EGR, there's a pipe that always breaks on Hyundais. That tool for doing it on this side was brilliant. So okay, leave your comments down below. Actually no, I'll continue the video on once I've replaced this switch. Once I've replaced it, this is the one I replaced like 6 months ago, so I'm putting that back in place of the broken one, and I've replaced both switches then. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to pause, charge the camera, and I'm going to put the fans on, the music on, remove it, and try and tell myself that it's a happy day. All right, I'll be back. Okay, I just wanted to say one more thing. I actually did buzz out that switch to see if everything was working, and that really didn't tell me anything apart from the switch is working, but it didn't tell me anything about the circuitry of whether or not that was you know, dropping the relay. So I did do that. I made up a jumper cable and all that sort of stuff, and still didn't fix the problem. So here we go. I might have to remove that duct, I might have to remove this plastic, but let's see if we can get this clutch pedal. I can show it to you. Clutch pedal. See if we can remove that. There should be 3 bolts. Let's go. Right, just an update. Okay, so I had to remove this duct. See this duct that comes across here? There was 1 screw for that. I had to remove this plastic to get to the duct. So there's 1 screw for that, and then you can kind of just clip it out of the way, so that wasn't too hard. I think there's one other screw here, so I removed that. Then I was able to remove that funny BCM control module up here. That is an absolute nightmare. There's one screw or bolt that goes on a plate at the front, which is connected to it, and then there's another plate down the back. I could leave that in and just slide it out, so that's there. As far as getting the clutch pedal out, we're getting closer. I removed the circlip off the side. I try to remove the bolt that goes through it and take it out that way. I wasn't able to do it because there's some sort of plastic device behind preventing the bolt from sliding all the way out. Thanks for that great engineering design, Hyundai. Because if they'd done it the other side, I could have got the bolt out, removed the pedal, but now I've actually got to still remove this mount, and I can't even still identify. I can see the switch now. See the switch? There it is. I wonder if I can actually get to it from there. I don't know. I wonder if you can see it on the camera. Can you see that? No, you can't. I can't even see it. Can you see it now? And yeah, the spring's gone. Why wouldn't you spend more time designing a bracket which was more serviceable? They design these things so you throw them away, and it's a nightmare to have to replace. But I still have to find 3 bolts that hold this device on, and then get it all back out and all back in. Wish me luck. Okay, let's go for the cable. That looks okay. Push, pull, there we go. Okay, it'll be difficult. Okay, that's the switch. Sorry, it's actually got a push in as well. So the one that comes off is the one that is part of the harness, not the one that's part of the switch. It's got a push-in plastic holder to make it even harder. So this little plastic holder up here, probably off camera, it needs to come off. So we need to find a way to squeeze the tabs in behind it to flick it out. Why design like this? Why? Why? Is it a twist? Can we twist it? Can we pull it? I think I got it. Starting to work it out. There we go. So it's got one of these push-ins. See that? See that? It fits into a hole. Alright, so I'm not removing the clutch pedal assembly because I can get a straight shot at this switch right here. And I reckon I might be able to get a shifter on up here, pull it out from the back, and not take the bracket off. Okay, I've got my 14mm. Let's see if we get lucky. No. We're not lucky. Nope. Let's grab another socket. Okay, 14mm ring spanner. Nope. Okay. 14mm crowfoot. Maybe. I can get that part on. And of course it doesn't help the doors in the way. Yeah, what a nightmare. Gonna need two hands in this position. One to feed the crowfoot through. There we go. Get on there. Okay, socket's in position. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. If I don't have to remove this bracket, it's going to save me a lot of time because it gets two but not the third bolt. But I'm doing this by dropping the middle center pivot bolt. Come on, you can do it. Did I just loosen it? Not sure if you can see properly there. Put you in a different position. Hopefully that's a better position. I think we're winning. Using a crow's foot. Couple more turns. Now I'm going to get this new switch in. I don't know yet. Bolts out. Hallelujah. Probably take me 20 minutes to find it now. I'm just going to push the switch all the way back through. Oh, you know. They've designed it in such a way you have to remove the pedal, the whole thing. The switch is too big just to push back. Thanks, Hyundai engineering. You didn't give us room to take the switch out. Can I push it on an angle? Can I? Got it. Look at that. So I'm going to keep my spacing there. Alright, so successful. I was able to, let me get this back. I was able to get this out. Sorry, there we go. I was able to get this out without removing the frame for the clutch. I'm going to be replacing it with this one here, which kindly enough they have put a completely different plug on. Thanks, Hyundai. So I'm going to quickly solder that part on and do my testing. Okay, so this is the switch. Doesn't seem too bad. The only thing we can do now is actually throw a meter on it and actually see. Right, so we go on one of these terminals here. Thank you. And we'll connect it up to here. Thank you. Test. Okay, we have tone. Alright, test without pushing it down. We have tone. When we shouldn't have tone now because it's not depressed. Okay, so that's how far it should extend out. In reference, the same. On, no spring backwards. Okay, now let's see what a normal working switch should activate like. So you saw how it was getting slow and sluggy. Sure I connect that up right. Okay, so we have no tone. So it's a normally open circuit when depressed. Perfect. Go back and we will simulate the same thing. Okay, normally open. Staying on. It's all over the shop. pull it all the way out, normally open, it's no at-rest position. Okay, and then it just falls in there with no spring pressure back. You flick it to get back. What was happening is, what I noticed is that it was like depressed like that, so it was literally always on. Still on. See? Still on. Anyway, okay, so here's my switch. What I did is I took out my best switch, either that's brand new, genuine. I think it's genuine, yeah, it's genuine. And I cut the plug off the old one, soldered them on, heat shrink, and then a bit of electrical tape on the side. And I've adjusted my nut to the same spot that this one was, so it's going to go in the exact same spot. Now we're going to put it all back, and fingers crossed. And then I'm going to use my second oldest one, which is about 6 months old, which is this one. I'm going to use this one at the front, because if I ever need to replace it, it's going to be a lot easier, and that's already got the right plug on it too. Alright, so let's put these two plugs back in, reassemble the whole clutch mechanism, reassemble the dash, reassemble that funny module, and then start it up and see if we've only fixed the clutch problem, or see if the clutch problem is the result of the not starting problem. Alright, fun times. Okay, so it's all back together. Clutch in, clutch out. So what did we learn today? We learned that you could remove the second clutch pedal switch without needing to remove the whole assembly. To do that, plastic out, ducting out, that module out, this plastic out, remove the main bolt, push it all the way back, push it down, use a crow's foot and 1/4 inch drive to get it out, and that also comes in handy for putting it back in, especially the second sensor. Alright, so I'm just plugging my OBD there. Let's turn that on. Let's turn on our tablet. Alright, so I had a P0830 error, which I'm now going to clear and see if it pops back up. And we're also going to test whether or not we've been successful for the 30th time or something like that. That's what we're going to test. Let's put that down there. That's probably the better way. Bit of reflection going on. Alright, way too much reflection. How about there? Just checking I don't have the fan on. Alright. Oh, it's a fan outside. Alright, so I'm going to go to Hyundai. Okay. So once again, this is a 2012 TQ 2.5 diesel, and I'll show you what I find it under. (16-pin OBD). It's looking a bit bright there, isn't it? Manual selection, general area. We're in Australia. Down to Hyundai, which should be H1 or H800. There we are there. IMAX 2012 D 2.5, so diesel 2.5 TCI A2. That's the one that seems to work. Now it's going to go through. So we've got that's our same error. That's our clutch. TCM's okay, ABS, SRS, AC, then BCM. So that was probably that module that I pulled out. I thought it was a GPS module. When I googled it, came up BCM, so we'll just check that one too. Yep, immobilizer's good, and other. Okay, so let's read. Push that. Clutch pedal switch circuit A, clear. Okay, we'll just let that go. Alright, so 263,000 on the clock. I'll turn it off, put the key in, and everything's lit up like it should. Clutch in, start it. We're starting. We're turning off. Testing if it'll start again. Nope. Waiting for the click. Take the key out. Wait for the click. Wait for the click. I think that might have been it. That was it. Alright. Alright, so stop beeping. Alright, so we've cleared the DT codes. So basically our problem of intermittent not starting after on a hot engine via that relay is not caused by the clutch pedal. And yeah, I spent my whole day sort of swapping out that switch when it probably wasn't necessary. So I'm just going to pause it now and just show you one other thing. Pause. Okay, so let's enter this one here. Diagnostic plan, I think it is. Okay, enter. So we're going to go in there and we're going to check if our clutch pedal is actually on and going on and off. I want to read the data stream. Okay. Can we go in there? Oh, I don't have my fault. There's the key. I didn't have the accessories on. My fault. But because these cars get kind of used a lot, trying to keep the old one going so that way, you know, it'll be cheaper in the long run. Read data stream. Okay, so we're going to go for clutch pedal here, and we're just going to see if that works. Clutch, where's clutch? Current, CL, why aren't you there? Clutch, switch, manual only. Okay. Off. So this should show me straight away. On, off, on, off. It's working, just as it should. What made me do all this work and fix it was because you see on and off, I'm pushing on, I'm pushing off, pushing on, pushing off. That's working fine, but it was always in the off position. When I removed the key, I had to wait until it dropped to the NA position for the car to start. So I thought it might be related to the car's engine talking to, you know, its sensors saying, look, I'm not right, blah, blah, blah. See how it just went NA? Now I know the car will start again. That's why I thought it could be the clutch. Starts. Okay, off. Clutch is pushed in. Bang. Not starting. Now it's back to off again, but as soon as it goes to NA, we're good to go again. Waiting for it to go up to this line here, and it's symbolised by NA on this side. So yeah, it's a really big, there we go. It's up to NA now. Now watch this. Starts. So it's a really, shut up with your beeping. It's a really big, how do you say it? It's a really tricky problem, this one. I've replaced everything, chased everything. So yeah, if somebody knows what's going on with that, I know the car's computer does stay on after the car's off. It relays parameters and things like that, or it keeps priming the pump, does things like that. But as to why this won't start up, I mean, I'm going to have to start to do things like check my my glow plugs, see if that's what's causing it, check my ignition circuit. I even pulled the ignition out on this, which was one of my other videos, to actually check it, and everything was working right. So now we've got a functioning working clutch pedal, we've got no engine light problems whatsoever, and we're still not starting on a hot motor straight away without waiting 2 minutes. Now I know what you're saying, 2 minutes, just wait the 2 minutes, or it's a minute or 2 minutes. But the problem is, if you stall the car and you're at a traffic light or in the middle of an intersection, and you're, you know, kind of panicking trying to get it going, it's a big inconvenience. So that's why I'm trying to fix it. And also, I'd like to solve the mystery, because I know this car's got some K's on it, don't get me wrong, 263. You can get these up to, you know, I've seen them up to 350, almost 400,000. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. And all the sensors have been replaced, the injectors have been replaced, everything's been replaced that could be replaced, all the belts, all the hoses. So we're going to try and run this car into the ground. And the things we learn along the way is what I'm going to be using to help me get my other vehicles, you know, to those high kilometers as well. All right, if you've got any comments, leave it down in the comment section, and thanks for watching.